at the beginning, maybe a couple of years ago, there was a lot of criticism from those who were not understanding exactly what's happening on an economic level, on the amount of money that has been spent on infrastructure, reformation of streets and new ways and railways and so forth. This renovation process, and we're seeing it visually speaking. I mean, seriously, I got lost a couple of days ago. Like, when did this bridge even happen?
All the bridges have been
When did this even, GPS is not even catching up with these updates. Now we are seeing that. Now we are seeing that. What are the positive impact of this infrastructure process or project, if you may say, in light of COVID-19?
Is what we're seeing today.
Has it made it any easier? Has it made it the same? What is it?
No, the infrastructure, that's why we are still standing strongly. That's why we are still pushing up and down, and we are in a great position to help and a great position to support our private and public sector. It's because of this infrastructure. Can you imagine in this past 5 years, more than 17 industrial cities in 15 governors in Egypt? And that's why the direct investment and what we spoke earlier, because of this infrastructure, because that we are having enough energy. We are now exporting energy to even Africa and other countries around us. So it's because of the infrastructure we are doing. So that's people that, I'm sorry to just add on that, that's people who were taking 2018 and 17 and criticizing the billions that been investing. They are being quiet today. They have to keep quiet because they know the impact.
Well, they obviously didn't have a future vision.
They don't have, exactly. I think
but I think it's normal. I mean, people haven't learned to have a future vision at any point in 4 or 7 years.
I think especially these days, we should really say bravo to all our governments. Really, frankly speaking, it's not something that we are boasting our government. No, that's the reality.
And I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because when you said a couple of moments ago, private and public sector, there was always this image about the performance of the public sector versus the private sector. But today, unlike what we see worldwide, they're competing with each other, if I may put this right, because the level of administration and plans has really risen up to the standard of the private sector. So can we say today that in Egypt, the public and private sector are complementing each other?
Exactly. They are competing.
Or we're not there yet?
No, they are competing, of course. Of course, not as I wish, but
complementing, as in they depend on each other and they give each other.
And they can do better than this. And all this, believe me, is in the benefit of the consumer. Because the competition between the public and private sector, at the end, it's the consumer is benefiting from it.
Before I shift to Africa, I really need to talk about youth. Because we've seen all these new projects and the developments that have been happening in Egypt, youth being a very important pillar in them. Whether they are in training them or giving them good education or even sharing experiences with countries, youth from other countries. Has the youth played an important, vital role from your perspective in this development program?
Exactly, in public and private.
And how has that also been reflected on the pandemic itself?
We can see that the youth have played a great role in this pandemic, and from there you can say why His Excellency the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was so keen about making a forum for the youth yearly, and you can see them the decision makers. Most of the deputy governors now are youth. You see them, some ministers are youth. So
the PLP program
exactly,
also
and also in big companies, in big banks, national banks. This was not happening before. They play a big role because it's something for me is obvious, because a youth, they have energy, they have a vision, especially if they are well educated. And we can see the results from what you are saying. You know?
Let's talk a little bit more about your title now. I'm very interested, and I'm sure the viewers would be, to know more about their African neighbors. Let's start with Gambia. What can you tell us about the current economic affairs that are happening in Gambia in general?
Gambia is a tourism country. It's the very...
what is it well known for? What is
tourism. Tourism. We are the smiling coast of Africa.
Really? What is it, like in forest? What kind of tourism?
It's a beach. We have a very lovely beach in the Atlantic Ocean.
Excuse my ignorance in geography. What beach?
That's
what beach exactly are you talking about?
It's in the Atlantic Ocean.
All right.
Okay.
Wow.
It's
okay.
Really,
I'm really
amazing.
bad with you. Pardon me. but I always wanted to see what an ocean looks like, so now I know where to go.
It's an amazing beach. And
how far is Gambia from you?
Gambia is in West Africa. Gambia is about 7 hours flights from Egypt. It's a small country. Most of the tourism are from Europe. Not yet Egypt, but advise all Egyptians and
But
Africans
we wouldn't know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah,
It's
can
an
you
Atlantic
imagine
Ocean over there.
Banjul, that's the capital city of Gambia, have taken one award.
What can you tell us about the population?
2 million. It's a small
2
country.
million,
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
just 2 million. Actually, Gambia is in the middle of Senegal.
We can invite all Gambians then.
To come and have it.
We can invite them all in, yeah.
And we are an English-speaking country. We are part of Commonwealth. We have a new government also in 2017 after a wrong rule of 22 years of the former president. The new government, they are doing also great reforms. Of course, because the country is depending so much on the tourism, the lockdown have affected Gambia so badly. And but we are trying to cope with the situation. Gambia, we're trying to cope with the situation, and I think ECOWAS generally. You know, Gambia is part of ECOWAS. ECOWAS is the West African countries. That's Nigeria, Senegal, 18 countries. They agreed to start open up in 1st of August, which is recent, yeah, in a few days.
Yeah.
So I hope
things.
I hope things will get better when things.
We still want to know more about Gambia and the economic perspectives in Gambia, but allow us to go to this second report. Egypt's budget deals positively with the economic impact of the. Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on the Daily Debate. I'm still joined in with Dr. Hatem Raslan, Gambia's Ambassador at Large, Economic Affairs. Well, pardon me for interrupting our lovely conversation about Gambia and the Atlantic Ocean. We were just possibly talking off air as well, the fact that there's so much beauty in countries in parts of Africa that people are unfortunately not aware of. And I believe we both agree that the media should have played a greater role. You were talking about Gambia's economy being dependent to a large extent on tourism.
Yes.
And a population of 2 million people. Does Gambia have anything specific it's known for in terms of its exports? Does it export anything specific?
Peanuts. We export a big number of peanuts. And
I thought of monkeys when you said peanuts. I don't know why, but I mean, pardon me, that's just, you know.
And seafood too.
Seafood.
Gambia is a good hub for seafood generally. Gambia exports big numbers also of seafood.
That's
this
really
is the two
nice.
basic items that Gambia exports. Yeah.
So if we say that it's a touristic city and in light of COVID-19 and you know, Egypt being part of Africa and a leading gateway to the rest of the African continent, President Sisi was very keen during his terms to strengthen the relationship with our African neighbors. And we've seen so much conferences and visits and memorandums of understandings being signed on this level. We can't talk now, we surpassed the stage of speaking about integrating Egypt because we're part of it. Yeah. But I'm saying, how has this cooperation between Egypt and African countries in general been going on in your perspective during the past
I would say the last 1 year that in 2019 Egypt was the chair
of the African Union.
Egypt have done a lot of great things. I don't think any country have done the role that Egypt have played in this year. I can give you a few examples. A lot of forums and investment forums, economic forums, security forums have done exactly in this 1 year. In this 1 year with Africa specifically, and the draft of the Africa Free Zone have done in this year, which we
hope that would be applied because we've been talking about it forever.
Exactly, but I'm talking of the draft constitution have done in Egypt 1 year. Can you imagine? Also, in this year, the 600 millions of Africans have enjoyed electricity, and this was when Egypt was in the EU, and also it was a very successful forum in November 2019.
There's so many challenges in the African continent, and maybe infrastructure is one of them, and health. Exactly. While Egypt is successful and well experienced in both these fields, there's also been a lot of projects, infrastructure-wise, that have been linked between Egypt and the African countries. Let's talk about that in general. And also, in terms of health, we've seen the Minister of Health launching initiatives to help people in Africa combating hepatitis C, for instance, and other diseases. These kind of cooperations, how can it help the African economy in general, and how can it benefit Egypt in specific?
All this exchange, where Egypt sending their professors and doctors to all African countries, have reflected a lot in the political relation between African countries. That's why I said that Egypt is coming back to its real role to play, to lead Africa from all what you are saying. If we are helping the African countries in health sector, of course, nothing more important than health in the whole world. And everybody knows that Africa have been suffering a lot from a lot of diseases and sicknesses. And really, the health sector generally, we have a lot of struggles in all Africa, really. So if Egypt is giving a hand, it's really much appreciated politically, financially later on, because later on, for example, our hepatitis C is in a very good prices. Countries are buying from it, and it's a win-win. Of course, you are the leader, you are the big brother.
And if you want to develop a continent, you need to really consider health.
Exactly. Health
without health, you won't be able to do
exactly.
anything in your life.